Welcome aboard Just Jets with your captain, Matt O'Leary. Buckle up and enjoy the ride.
Hello and welcome to episode number 25 of Just Jets. What's going on? I'm Matt O'Leary. Going to be hanging out with you talking New York sport. Well, not really New York sports. New York Jets football. I don't know why that came out. For the next half hour, so really excited to get into it. Have a lot of questions today, so it's going to be heavy questions, but I just wanted to get through one topic in the monologue, and that's the over-evaluation on non-premium positions by the fans, which is kind of ironic, because that's what the Jets franchise has run into problems with for the last few years, and we're hoping that's what Joe Douglas moves away from in his tenure as the New York Jets general manager. But I've seen a lot of comments on social media, in the comment thread, on my videos, and just pretty much all around where, and not just from fans, from people who cover the NFL as well, that the Jets are going to be an absolute dumpster fire on the defensive side of the ball without CJ Mosley, who opted out, which is my video yesterday was on CJ Mosley opting out, and without Jamal Adams. With those two gone, they're going to have a bottom-tier defense. They're going to be brutally bad. I don't buy it. For a few reasons, I don't buy it. So, reason number one, yes, both of those players are very, very, very good. There's no denying that. Both of those guys make your team better. Hand up, honest, yes, that's 100% the case. But here's the thing. Last year, the New York Jets had the 10th rated defense in DVOA. This year, they face a much tougher schedule, so I don't think they're going to finish 10th. But I think they finish top half of the league. So let's say from 16 and higher. So I think, I'll say this. They have a top 15 defense next year. I still believe that to be the case, even without Jamal, even without CJ Mosley, and I'll tell you why. CJ Mosley played 3 good quarters for the Jets last year. And I don't mean 3 quarters of the season. I mean 3 quarters of the first game of the year, which was when, obviously, he went off against the Buffalo Bills, had a phenomenal game, no doubt. And while the Jamal Adams trade is mostly for the future with all those premium first-round picks, with your third-round pick as well coming back in that deal, they also traded for a starting caliber safety in Bradley Mcdougall. Now, Bradley Mcdougall is by no reason or in nowhere in the same stratosphere as Jamal Adams, but he is an above average safety. You are going from the best safety in the league to the 15th best safety in the NFL, maybe a little bit higher than that. He can more than hold his own as a starter. And essentially the point that I want to make is you can win, or you can have a fine average defense without an elite level safety and an elite level inside linebacker. It looks like they will head into 2020 with Bradley Mcdougall and Marcus May as their safety duo. That is more than capable for an NFL defense. They will also have, most likely, Avery Williamson and one of Patrick Onwuasor, or however you pronounce his name, from the Ravens. You could put James Burgess there, Neville Hewitt, Blake Cashman. Pick one of those guys I just listed off, and still, obviously, yes, it's not as good as CJ Mosley or if Jamal Adams is on the team, but they are more than capable of running with those 2 guys, replacing Adams and Mosley. And the reason for it is because they are in a premium position. If Jamal Adams was a cornerback and the number 1 cornerback in the sport, and CJ Mosley, who's, let's say, a top 5 inside linebacker, top 10 inside linebacker, wherever you want to put him, was an edge rusher, and you're losing one of those, and you had the 10th rated defense at that point, then yeah, I would say you're probably taking a further step back. It has to do with the positional importance, and I don't know or I believe that some fans and some people in the media tend to look at those things and say, oh, well, you lost 2 great players, which is true. Again, this isn't a knock on Jamal Adams or on CJ Mosley. Both those guys are good players. But I don't think the defense is going to completely crumble apart because you replaced Adams with a capable starting safety, and Mosley barely played for you last year. And still, that was without Avery Williamson, who should be starting this year, who is solid. I would say he's a very good inside linebacker. He's not elite level, but he's very good. If you were able to get by with James Burgess and Neville Hewitt, at inside linebacker last year, I'm more than okay with Patrick Onwuasor and Avery Williamson as your inside linebacker duo. And I don't think you're going to significantly drop off. I don't think they're going to go now 4-12 or 2-14. Something that I people legitimately have been saying in the comments at me or on social media that the Jets are now a 4-win team. That's preposterous. After the trade of Jamal Adams and after CJ Mosley decided to opt out, I still believe that the Jets are a 7 or an 8-win team. And the reason for that is because I think their defense is going to finish around 12th, 15th in the league in defensive DVOA. And offensively, hopefully they take a little bit of a step forward. And while I think they'll be a much more watchable product this year in 2020, I think they'll finish with around the same record because of the schedule being much more difficult. So while, yes, it sucks that you're losing a player like Jamal Adams, and yes, it's really not ideal from a Jets fan perspective that you lose CJ Mosley. I don't really have an issue with him opting out or any player who opts out. I get it. They are, trying to protect themselves. I support their decisions. I don't think it's going to impact the Jets' win-loss record as significantly as most other people are thinking. I really don't. This still, to me, looks like a 7-9 roster. And nothing's really changed that. So just wanted to get that out there and talk about non-premium positions because that's something that comes up often. And I don't necessarily think just because you replaced Jamal Adams, who is the best safety in the league with an average starting safety, and you lost CJ Mosley, who played virtually one game for you last year, that you're going to fall off a cliff. I just don't buy into that notion. Also, the Jets decided to move on from Brian Winters today. This was a move that I wasn't really too surprised about. Actually, I thought it was going to come a few months ago. The move saves the Jets $7.5 million. I'm almost surprised why this hasn't happened earlier. Brian Winters really didn't play all that great in 2019. On top of that, they signed Greg Van Roten and brought back Alex Lewis, who are going to start over him. He wasn't going to be a starter. Cameron Clark is probably going to be one of the first guys off the bench as a backup and a potential long-term starter at the position. I would have liked Larry Warford, but supposedly he opted out of the season. Again, I'm really not too surprised that they decided to do this move. Again, $7.5 million. He really, unfortunately, wasn't all that productive for the Jets in the last few years. He was solid in around like 2015-16, but the last 2 to 3 years, he's struggled as a member of the New York Jets offensive line. That right side of the line, really the whole thing, but the right side specifically with Chuma Edoga, and whether it was Shell on the right side and Winters as the right guard was just not good. They needed an upgrade at the position badly, and again, that cost them a lot of money. So I'm kind of curious to see if they decide to do anything with that cap space. It makes me believe that the Jets are trying to create more cap space for another move. What that move is, I don't necessarily know. They could bring in another wide receiver. They could bring in an edge presence. They could maybe try to look to add another an offensive lineman in order to add more depth to the unit on a cheaper price, obviously, because Brian Winters at his price was a little bit much at $7.5 million, but I'm not surprised by it. I don't think it's necessarily something that Jets fans have to get too worked up over. He wasn't someone who was going to start for this team. If he was playing, that probably means Greg Van Roten or Alex Lewis got hurt. So right as of now, it looks like Becton's going to be the starting left tackle, followed by Alex Lewis at left guard. Center will be McGovern, Greg Van Roten on the right side, and either George Fant or Chuma Edoga at right tackle. So that's what the offensive line situation looks like after the news that Brian Winters was cut. To the voicemails we go. First one's Liam from Sayville wants to talk about Le'Veon Bell.
Hey, Matt. This is Liam from Sayville. I want to talk about Le'Veon Bell. In a most recent episode of yours, you had talked about how he's probably going to be off the team next year. And I've actually seen that on the internet, floating around a little bit. And my question is, why? Why is he going to be off the team? I understand he signed a 4-year deal, and his guaranteed money is up next year and everything. But he's a great locker room guy. He's a veteran. I think he could help P. Ryan develop as well. Let P. Ryan sit behind him and Frank Gore this year. Get rid of Frank Gore next year, and then just keep them two. I just think it'd be kind of dumb to get rid of Le'Veon Bell. He's one of our only star players. And he says all the right things. He's a great locker room guy, like I said. I don't think that he should be off the team. I think he's worth keeping. Let me know what you think. Thank you, and go Jets.
Yeah, I completely get where you're coming from, Liam. Just for to put it into context, I think it depends on what he does this year for the New York Jets production-wise. Last year rushed for a little under 800 yards. It wasn't great. The offensive line was terrible, and Gase didn't utilize him properly. I guess I'll make the case for why he won't be back, and I don't. It all depends on what happens this year. If he produces, gives you over 1,000 rushing yards and about another 500 or 600 receiving yards, I personally would bring him back. But a potential reason why the Jets might look to not bring him back is because of the cap savings. It saves you $9.5 million next year and $13 million the year after that if you move on from Le'Veon Bell. And Joe Douglas didn't sign him, and Joe Douglas doesn't come from the school of paying running backs that kind of money. He would look to find better value on a guy and pay them $5 million and get similar, not as good production, but I think that's his mindset. And Mike McCagnon's mindset was different, obviously, as he went out and paid for Le'Veon Bell. I was a proponent. I usually am someone who would rather not pay a running back, but I thought the Jets were in a unique position last year because they had so much cap space and because they were so badly on offense. To me, it really depends on what he does this upcoming year. If he significantly improves and puts up 1,000 rushing yards and puts up, another, like I said, 5 or 6. If he's at 1,600 all-purpose yards, yeah, I'm bringing him back. I would, but I don't know if the Jets would. I don't know if that's the right call, but I think that's the reason why most people say that, and it's because he's not a Joe Douglas guy. I do agree that he has been really good since coming in here, by the way, as a locker room presence for sure. Next up is Biggums from North Carolina. So let's hear from Biggums, who wants to talk about the offense.
Hey, Matt, this is going on. This is Biggums from Lewiston, North Carolina. I just want to start out by saying that, the Jamal Adams trade and everything, whether or not he wanted to stay or not is irrelevant at this time. We need to get away from trying to worry about what's going on with just a safety. That's what we need to stop. This is all about, from here on out, needs to be about developing Sam Darnold, getting guys like Denzel Mims, Lawrence Cager, Chris Herndon, all these guys integrated into the offense. Kansas City won a Super Bowl last year with a middle-of-the-pack defense.
Worse than middle of the pack.
It's a quarterback-driven league, and has been that for almost the last 15 years. We need to worry about Denzel Mims and guys like that and getting these guys developed and trying to be able to score points in this league.
He's right.
So Sam Darnold can stop getting disrespected, thinking that he can't come out here and hold his own against other elite quarterbacks.
Yes.
So my question to you, how do you look at this offense, and what do you think they can possibly do as far as their offensive ratings and how they're going to play this year? Love the show. Keep up the good work. I'll let you later.
Love the question. First of all, Biggums, you were spot on with everything you said. That really pumped me up. That was a great voicemail right there. 100% true. The Jets have completely neglected the offensive side of the ball for the better part of a decade plus, which is really depressing. Outside the 2015 season, of course, as the one outlier. But I think Sam Darnold takes a step forward with a better offensive line. Even though the Jets are still not quite there with playmakers. Now, I'll say this. Le'Veon Bell, I think, will be better this year and close to the player he was in Pittsburgh. I really, really like Chris Herndon at the tight end position, but he hasn't played in a year, so that's a little bit of a question mark. But I personally like Herndon. I think he's a good player. Denzel Mims, I don't think is going to give you solid production. As in, I don't think he's going to give you more than like 800 yards this year. I think he can be someone who pushes over 900 yards a year, 1,000 yards a year in year 2 and beyond. But to expect that in year 1, I think is a little bit of a stretch. So I don't know if they have all the pieces around Darnold just yet. If we have this conversation a year from now and they either trade one of their picks for a wide receiver or they draft a wide receiver in the first round, probably a completely different story. But as of now, I think they'll be improved, but I don't see this offense being in the top 20. I would say that they jump from, I think they were 31 in offensive DVOA. Maybe they jump up to 22. And to me, that's not enough to justify bringing back Adam Gase if he goes 6-10, 7-9, 8-8, something like that. To me, if he doesn't make the playoffs and the Jets go 7-9, then I'm not moving on from Darnold, who, like you said, I think Darnold is good and can hold his own. I'm moving on from the coach, hiring a real head coach, and trying to build around my 23-year-old quarterback. That's what I think, Bigums, and I think we're kind of on the same page there in terms of they have to do more for this offense and allocate more resources. You hit the nail on the head. I really, really enjoyed that question. Next up is Mario from Long Beach, wants to talk about Jamal Adams trade and Yannick Ngakoue.
Hey, Matt, Mario from Long Beach, second-time caller. About the Jamal Adams trade. I think, obviously, right now, by the trade and what happened, the Jets are not a better team at this point in time. But how about packaging maybe one or a 1 and a 3 to get Ngakoue back? So say you take the 1 or the 3 or either one of them or both of them for this year coming up, then the Jets still have their own first-round pick. Now they got an all-pro edge rusher, and basically it's a trade of Adams for Ngakoue, plus you got a number 1 in return. It looks a little bit different then, and then maybe the Jets can win this year. Let me know what your thoughts are. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Yeah, really, I like Yannick Ngakoue a lot. I don't know if I'd give up a first and a third-round pick for him. I would definitely give up a third for him, and the reason why I don't know if I'm giving up a 1 right now is because we've passed the deadline for giving a contract to the franchise-tagged players. So he would just play on this 1-year deal, and then the Jets would have to sign him at the end of the year, which is a little bit more risky rather than kind of like a trade and then sign to an extension kind of situation for the Jets. I like Ngakoue as a player a lot, though. I think that's exactly what the Jets are missing, that kind of an edge presence who, at absolute worst, he's giving you 8 sacks. That was the lowest of his career. He's more likely to give you double digits. To me, he's a better fit for the Jets than someone like Jadeveon Clowney. I like Ngakoue a lot. I would look to add him if I can get him for a third-round pick for sure. And then you're heading into those drafts with the 2 first-round picks and flip the third for Ngakoue, or if you have to move a second for Ngakoue, I'd probably do that. But I like the player a lot. I like your thinking there. It seems to make sense to me. So thank you so much, Mario, for the question. Next is Mike from Port St. Lucie, and he wants to talk about trading your best players and why that kind of brings a bad look.
Hey, Matt, Mike from Port St. Lucie. Yeah, man. Listen, I hate to be selfish, but I hate the aftermath and all the negative comments from the so-called talking heads about how the Jets let the best player on the team just walk. That really kind of grates at me. And I just wish they got anyone that would make an immediate impact, even like a Jadeveon Clowney. They need some name ID. I want the team to get national recognition. They're not getting it. It's a New York franchise. They're always like the orphan, man. They're always the laughing stock. I'm really tired of it, and I'm getting old, and I don't have, patience, to wait 5 years for a winner. I know it may take that long. It's not about me, but they need a guy, yeah, Douglas did a great job. He's probably the best GM they've had in, my recent memory. I'm not big on, the names of who the owners were, but gosh, the
he's up
Cody
there.
Johnson era has been horrible. And Joe Douglas is the only shining light. Anyway, that's it, man. That's all I got. I need something to happen, and I need it quick. Have a great day. Go Jets. Let's pray it's not another 4-12 season.
Hope not. I get the frustrating part. I get that it's frustrating. I do. I just don't like the idea of signing someone because of their name. That's exactly what Jadeveon Clowney is. To me, he's a big name who I think has slightly underachieved and is slightly overrated. I think he's very, very good against the run. I don't think he's as good against the pass as people lead on, or getting after the quarterback as some people believe. So while it sucks that Jamal's gone and you're probably not signing a guy like Jadeveon Clowney, I'm really excited in the return that the Jets got, and I trust Joe Douglas in order to turn this thing around. I really do. I think you hit it on the head, as Joe Douglas is someone who you trust as a general manager, and that's exactly how I feel. And I think that he's going to be able to rebuild this team with those picks, whether it be using it in the draft and building through the draft, or if you use some of the picks, not all obviously, but if you use a pick and trade for somebody right now to help you out and help out Sam Darnold. But I'm pretty much with you on that part. Next up is Greg from New York, wants to talk about a potential Sam regression.
Hey, Matt, it's Greg from Walker, New York. So, love the podcast, man. Probably the third time I'm calling in. I know that, obviously, this past Monday you had a lot of, calls coming in. You said you couldn't really, answer all of them. But I figured I'd call back and ask again. This is a little bit of a weird question.
Okay.
What do you think the chances are that, clearly we got a huge deal for Jamal Adams, right? We get, pretty much 4 first-round picks, right? Heard a story coming out, a theory, that obviously, if, let's say, God forbid, dude, like this 2020 season, I love Sam Darnold, dude. I know I love the dude to death. I think he's our future, but what if Sam regresses? What if Adam Gase isn't doing his job, which I hate Adam Gase. I think he's terrible.
Okay.
But Joe Douglas didn't really, draft Sam. So what's the chances that this trade for Jamal is bigger than everyone's thinking? What if it's more the fact that Joe Douglas is having, not second thoughts, but he's more so taking like a security blanket of, nothing. Trevor Lawrence is an extremely A-plus prospect ever since Andrew Luck, which is what I hear. Do you honestly think that, let's say Sam regresses this year, Adam Gase is pretty much told, hit the hay, Joe Douglas gets a new, head coach? What if, he wants to help Sam? He could, or he uses those.
Okay. I think that, no. I know it hasn't come out yet, but the question is going to be, is he going to use those picks to trade up for Trevor Lawrence? I think that would be a huge mistake if the Jets do that. A massive mistake. I know that Joe Douglas didn't draft Sam Darnold, but he's 23 years old. You don't give up on a 23-year-old quarterback with Todd Bowles and Adam Gase as his head coach. To me, you use those picks and you build up the offensive line, you draft a receiver like Jamar Chase. You really try to do all you can to go all in on making life as easy for Sam Darnold as possible. Yes, Trevor Lawrence is a really good prospect. I understand that. I don't think the Jets are going to finish in a position where they're going to be able to draft him from where they are. So if you're going to trade up for him, it's going to put you in the same problem that you had with Sam Darnold, because they had to give up assets in the draft in order to move up to get Sam Darnold, and then weren't able to build around Sam Darnold because you traded those assets. So you're just putting yourself in an endless cycle of moving assets to move up to get a quarterback. You have someone who has flashed a significant amount. I don't give up on Sam. I don't. I continue to build around Sam Darnold. And I think that's the direction that the Jets should go, for sure. Thanks for the question, Greg. Thomas from Poughkeepsie's up next and wants to talk about Jadeveon Clowney.
Hey, what's up, Matt? Hans from Poughkeepsie. And with all this Jadeveon Clowney news, it's really got me thinking, because I agree with you. I do not think the Jets should sign Jadeveon Clowney, because in my opinion, I think Joe Douglas would be going back on everything he's been trying to do since he's become general manager. He's been trying to set a culture of we're disciplined, hardworking, and everyone can be a leader. In the last draft, 5 out of 7 people that he drafted were captains. Last offseason, he tried to bring in offensive linemen that were known for not getting penalties and being disciplined. And then you're just going to go in and bring in Jadeveon Clowney, who's a walking penalty, who won't get you those double-digit sacks that this team really needs. Now, look, I have total faith in Joe Douglas. And if he does end up bringing in Jadeveon Clowney, I'll trust the move. I'll think, all right, maybe he's doing something that we don't see.
Okay, now I'm confused.
People ask me, who's your favorite player on the Jets? I say Joe Douglas, man. I have so much faith in our man.
Oh,
I have so much
love
faith
it.
in Joe Douglas. So that's just my opinion on it.
Okay.
If I was Joe Douglas, I would not sign Jadeveon Clowney. But you know what I would do? I would flip one of those Seahawks first-round picks and fourth for Yannick Ngakoue. Now that's a pass rusher. All right, let me know what you think. Great stuff you're putting out.
Thank you.
And as always, go Jets, baby.
That was a wild phone call. Love the energy though. I like Joe Douglas a lot too. That's laugh out loud funny that Joe Douglas, when asked favorite Jet, Joe Douglas is the answer. That's really good. I don't think Jadeveon Clowney fits, and I wouldn't if the Jets decided to sign Jadeveon Clowney. I think it would be a mistake. And I would say that. I wouldn't just be like, oh, that's it. Joe Douglas did it, so I trust Joe Douglas, so I trust the decision. I would still be critical of it, and obviously there's a chance that I would be proven wrong. But hey, man, that's what this is all about. But for the most part, we're on the same page in how much we trust Joe Douglas, which is awesome that Jets fans could be on the same wavelength in that. Next up is Carson from Selden, wants to talk 2021 draft.
Hey, Matt, this is Carson from Selden, New York, and I had a question, really a two-parter question. I don't know how much you looked into next year's draft in terms of prospects, but if you look at next year's draft, the talent for wide receiver is pretty substantial. You got, like, Justin Ross, Jamar Chase, you got Devontae Smith. I mean, some really good wide receivers. So what are your ideas or ideologies of taking a wide receiver in the first round in this upcoming draft? And also with our first pick, not the second rounder, the second first round pick we have from Seahawks, the first one that we have, what do you think about pass rusher? Like a guy like Gregory Rousseau from Miami. Question is this kind of like a out there type of question, but what are your expectations for this Jets offense in terms of players that could surprise, like a guy like Chris Herndon, who I felt as if before he was injured, he could have been a star at our tight end position. Denzel Mims, what are stuff along those lines? Thank you. Go Jets.
Appreciate the question. So to answer the draft stuff first, I definitely think if the Jets went wide receiver and edge in the first round, order doesn't matter. To me, then I'm all about that. I think it's tough to say different names right now because we don't know where either team is going to pick, whether the Jets, but where the Seahawks pick is going to be or where the Jets pick is going to be. We also don't know with the college football season if there is going to be a season and how that's all going to work out. So it's tough to say names in particular, but the ones Jamar Chase is a name that comes up a ton. Devontae Smith's a name that comes up a ton. The edge rusher from Florida, Miami. Sorry. I really like. I think he's a talented piece. Yeah, man. Both of those positions, as of right now, are positions of need. Maybe they address it in a trade. Maybe they address it in free agency, and we're looking at different positions. But as of right now, as this roster currently looks, yeah, I think if they went wide receiver and edge in the first round, that would make a ton of sense for this team. It would make me feel a lot more comfortable about the offense as well. And then on top of that, with Chris Herndon, and on the second part of the question, I'm a big Herndon fan. I think if he's healthy this year, I think he's someone who could push 700 receiving yards as a tight end. I really like him. I think he and Sam had a nice connection, and I think he's going to help out on the offense because I think they're a little bit weaker at the wide receiver position. Mims, I like. I just don't know if he's going to give you outside starting receiver numbers right away. I don't know if he's going to give you more than 800 yards this year. That'd be a pleasant surprise, and I think down the line he takes that step and is someone who you can pencil in for 900 plus yards every year, 1,000 plus yards every year. But as of right now, I don't know if I could expect that from him in year one. So thank you so much for the question on that, Carson. Next up is Travis from Ohio. Let's hear from Travis.
Hey, Matt. It's Travis from Ohio. Hey, you kind of touched on it, what was it, Tuesday with your buddies on the podcast, but I want to talk about opt-outs. Jets so far this Friday in the apocalypse have only had one.
This is before the C.J. Mosley opt-out,
That
by the
reserve
way.
center that I never heard of. And my question is this. Do you think we have a fighting chance to make the playoffs, even though we have that tough schedule? But with all the hard-nosed, blue-collar type one-year prove-it deal guys on the roster, with, like, we saw all the guys on the Patriots, 6 of them have opted out, including Hightower.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and some other big names around the league. Like, we don't have big names, but we have a reserve center that opted out. So, and I wonder if that's further incentive for the one-year prove-it guys to really deliver in a crazy freaking year, you know? Other than that, F Jamal Adams, but I wish him well, even though we
F Jamal Adams, I wish him well.
care about him anymore because he wants to be a Seahawk for life. So, whatever to him. Anyway, you stay healthy. You know I love you. Go Jets!
Thank you. Thank you, buddy. Appreciate the phone call as always. So I don't know if they're going to be able to compete for a playoff spot as currently constructed, even with before Mosley opted out. I think they're a middle of the pack team, a 7, 8. If 9 wins gets you in a playoff spot, maybe they finish as the 7 seed and sneak in. Maybe they do. That'd be great. I would love that. Contrary to popular belief, I'm not rooting for this team to be bad. In a perfect world, Adam Gase shuts me up and they go 12-4 this year. Do I think that's going to happen? No, I wouldn't bet on that happening. But I don't think the Patriots are going to fall off a cliff because of all the guys that opted out. I still expect them to win the division. I still think Buffalo is going to finish second. I think the Jets finish third in the division with 7, 8 wins, and I think Miami finishes right behind them with 6 or 7. So that's pretty much my expectations for the AFC East. But thanks again, Travis, for the question. Next up is Liam from Manhattan, wants to talk offensive line.
Hey, Matt, this is Liam from Manhattan. I love your show. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
So I know you're probably getting a bunch of questions about Jamal Adams, but I wanted to talk some offensive line. So since both the Bills and the 49ers have all pro defensive lines, how many games do you think it's going to take for the offensive line to really gel and really, burst out of its shell? So that's my question, and go Jets.
Yeah, good question, by the way, because I think that is going to play an impact with the lack of preseason and stuff like that. I think probably about week 3, maybe, we'll see that turned around, which is tough because, like you said, man, 49ers, great defensive line. Bills, great defensive line. That's going to be tough. That's going to be extremely tough. And I think the issue with getting 5 new starters for 2020 versus 2019 starters on opening day. Lewis is obviously a returning starter, but it's not going to be easy to get that flow right away, which it's going to be very difficult. It is. I think probably it's going to take at least 2 weeks to get it down pat. So maybe by week 3, things are looking up, which is not ideal because it's a very tough schedule. But I'm with you, Liam. I think it's going to be something that hinders the Jets early on in the year for sure. Last one's Josh from Woodmere wants to talk Mosley and Darnold.
Hi, Matt. It's Josh from Woodmere. Just got 2 questions. Number 1, with CJ Mosley helping out of the season, how much do you think that, affects the team? Do you think it will lower their win total at all? Or do you think, it's just going to be same record, but, a little less excitement on the defensive side? And also, with Darnold, could you see Sam potentially, not really being able to break out on the Jets due to a lack of talent around him and not a good coaching staff, and then leaving the Jets, after his rookie contract and then finally breaking out? Or do you think if he's going to be good, he'll be good on the Jets, and if he doesn't end up breaking on the Jets, then he just won't be good at all? But like Ryan Tannehill, he was a Gase guy, and he ended up breaking out after he left Miami. So could you see that happening with Darnold? Or no, because I'm just concerned with the lack of talent around him, that we could just waste a talented quarterback, because I like Sam and I think he has a lot of potential. So I just wanted to know what you think about that. And thank you. I love your stuff, man, and do a great job. Go Jets.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that a lot, Josh. As far as CJ Mosley goes, obviously he's a very good player. It stinks that we're not going to be able to watch him, but I don't think it's going to affect their win total. I still think they're a 7 or an 8 win team this year. I still think that their defense is going to be 15th or higher in the league. And as for Sam Darnold, I think he is able to take the next step despite the circumstances. I've seen too much raw talent from him to think that he won't be able to figure it out. I think he could be better with a different head coach and some more talent around him, for sure. And I still think that Joe Douglas is working to get that talent around him. But I definitely think we see an improved Sam Darnold this year. And I'm looking forward to seeing potentially what he could do with a real offensive guru as a head coach. That'd be really cool to see in 2021 potentially. But I'm really rooting for Sam. I like Sam Darnold a lot, and I think he's the guy going forward. I really do. So that's going to do it for me in episode number 25. Thank you so much for tuning in. Once again, I'm Matt O'Leary, and I'll talk to you next time.